All right, we're starting back up. So our next speaker is David Woody, the Director of Innovative Solutions at the American Heart Association. His organization helps the American Heart Association rethink traditional approaches to cardiovascular research, leveraging technology to enable customers, patients, and physicians to achieve better health outcomes and to further the mission of the American Heart Association. Let's all welcome David. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Hello. So David Woody, Director of Innovative Solutions, as was mentioned. So our job within our technology department is to try to get in front of some new technologies and bring those into the fold. So I know everybody here is in the nonprofit space, and we all know how hard it is to get out of that operational mode and supporting all the operational things we do. So we had the luxury of standing up a small team to try to get in front of this. And by small, and that becomes relevant in the conversation, there's 3 of us. So that's where AWS comes in and benefits us a lot. This is our mission. Actually, we just released a new mission statement. We haven't done so in years. But to be a relentless force for a world of healthier, longer lives. First thing you notice about that is there's nothing about cardiovascular disease or stroke in our mission statement. And that's because our CEO, Nancy Brown, has decided we are going to be this relentless force across the vast spectrum of health issues: brain health, stroke, cardiovascular disease, healthier lifestyles. All those things culminate in cardiovascular disease and stroke and all these kind of things. So we have to broaden our scope. And that also fits nicely with what it is we're trying to achieve. Our task was to find a way to really address those 2 key objectives: ease of access to relevant AHA information and frictionless engagement with the organization. So we have a website, we have lots of mobile apps out there doing different things, we have multiple digital properties, fundraising properties, et cetera, but there's really not a cohesive way to interact with the organization. We're rather vast. We're an umbrella organization. We have an advocacy wing, we have trainings in CPR, we fund research, we have scientific publications, fundraising, of course. So our task was to try to think of a way to bring all that together and make it frictionless so that folks, when they interact with this, much like we heard, if any of y'all were in the classy presentation about that need for speed and really that good experience from people coming to your organization. This is sort of the vision we set. We heard a lot a few years ago, everybody talked about 360-degree view of the customer in terms of data and analytics and things like that. We've taken that and said, we really want to create a 360-degree view of our organization. So how can we do that? How can we best give that broad scope of what we do, as you saw, kind of reflected in the new mission statement? One of those ways is working on Alexa. So a while back, we introduced the Alexa skill around warning signs of a heart attack, warning signs of stroke, and how to learn CPR. We actually have, if the AHA skill is on the device, how do I do CPR? It will walk you through our hands-free, hands-only CPR, and with a metronome playing to keep pace, advises you to call 911, et cetera. We're just about to release some new skills around first aid, all these topics you see over there on the left: bleeding, burning, choking, dehydration, et cetera. And that's really an important part of our strategy. You know, for example, through this skill, we're able to reach people in their home. 350,000 cardio events happen outside of the hospital every year with a survival rate of 11%. So that means 1 out of 10 people that have a heart attack that aren't in a hospital when they have it survive, barely over 1 out of 10. So, and in addition to that, 70% of those events happen in the home. So what else is in the home? Alexa's in the home devices. So if we can start taking advantage, I know there's different folks trying to get into that space around first aid or first response in the home and things like that. But we're the leader in training in CPR, the science around this. So we really want to try to be out there and be that first resource for folks in an emergency situation. So that's kind of our focus on Alexa. We want to expand that more. On the Lex platform, that goes back to that 360-degree view. How do we bring all that together? And that's really the exciting thing, I think, about what we're doing on Lex with great folks at AWS like Bob Potterville, Bob Strahan, all these people we work with now. The Lex allows you to decouple that technology from the device and just build on that. So we've taken an approach, and the thing that we've been working on with these folks, we think it's pretty exciting, is to get away from the traditional bot, the floating little bot over a web page where the thing comes up and you talk to somebody and they answer your questions, or it's a Q&A. The Q&A is a relevant thing, absolutely. It's part of the bot landscape. But we want to do more than that, and we're going to run not a live demo, recording of a demo, but we will show you what we've been working on. Here's pretty much the tool set that's going behind this solution that we've got to date. The main corridor is Lambda, S3, and Elasticsearch. Those kind of make up the core principles, but we're also, of course, working with the Lex for input-output, the whole CloudFormation, CloudFront suite down there. We really want to get into SageMaker because we've got some things going around behavioral science, and that will be the place that we write those algorithms. We're not there yet, but we're working on it and working with some behavioral scientists to write those algorithms and get them coded. Cognito to work with our SSO into the databases we're using around the user profiles. DynamoDB, of course. We really want to explore Neptune. We're not quite there yet. And then around analytics, it's a solution that we developed around using AWS Glue, Athena, and then in our case, although the AWS folks have been lobbying hard to use QuickSight, we're using Tableau. And I don't know, is it just me, or does anybody else feel sorry for whoever it is at AWS that has to create a new icon every time they roll out a new solution? Because that's just, quick, we just rolled something out. It's like we've used every circle, square, common has. Just circle with 13 arrows. Yeah, do that, that's good, that's good. I think about these things sometimes. So anyway, this is the solution we're building. Like I say, it all goes back to that frictionless 360-degree view. That's what we're after. So we're gonna run a quick demo. And I'm going to invite up Chirag Cheetah, who's on my team. This is Chirag. He's the technical lead. He's done all the hard work around this, working with some great folks at AWS. Grab that mic, Chirag. And because our demo is a video, I tried to do it and I got hopelessly lost and behind on it. So we're going to tag team this demo. Let me pull out your notes so I can follow along. And hopefully it'll be more effective for everybody. The first thing I'm going to say, it starts rather quickly. So once it starts, you're going to see an interface with a chat space to the right. But then since it's on a browser, you're going to see all that real estate you get on a browser to the left. And then some stuff across the top, we hope, will show up. And in this case, we've got some buttons and a banner ad up there. So it's just an example. This is like version 0.1 for us. But the banner ad would be, something that we could change. If folks were logged in, it could be more dynamic and more relevant to that user. And so in this case, we want this multi-channel approach. So this is the browser version. We can extend this to mobile. We can put it on Echo and Alexa and Show. We can put it on Facebook, Slack, Kik, whatever else. We'll take a bot interface. So this is just the browser version. So let me start this. You're going to see real quickly a click on the banner ad, and you'll see what we're after with the content changing, but it happens really quickly after this video starts. And once I start it, I can't stop it. That's why he's here. Okay, so we click the banner ad, and you can see we're bringing the content to the user on the left, rather than having to go out and search and nav. Now you take over. Sure.
Okay, so basically you see we type in here in the chat bot, and we say we need to find a CPR course near me. And then the content shows up on the left. You notice we just said near me. So we're using geolocation and things like that to basically figure out where we are. Also, as you can see on the left-hand side, this is just a normal web page, and you can actually navigate through the web page as if it was native. Now, the cool part about this, and now here we go, we've already moved on. So register for a course. So you can see we can click a button within the panel. We can type, so everything talks to each other. So Lex talks to the web page talks to the iframe, and then vice versa. So basically here what we're doing is we're using quiz functionality that was built for the White House team, I believe. And basically here, all we're doing is you click a button and then the content on the left changes, okay? And then we're just going through a set of questions, you know. And as you go through, it's basically changing the layout on the left-hand side. And then at the end here, it says sign up. So if you're signed in to Lex, we can actually register for you immediately without even leaving the page. So all through APIs.
Okay, now we've switched context and we're out of our CPR and we're saying, I want to find a Heart Walk event near me. It prompts you for a zip code. It's going to come back in the bot, and in this case, we can't bring the content in, but we can send a link directly via API to this is one of our fundraising pages around that specific event, so we can hook the user up directly to that. Now we're saying I want to make a Heart Walk donation, so we're talking about a specific participant page. So someone that's registered for event, we prompt through the bot. This could all be done through voice too, or if you're on a mobile for voice. And now we can hook them up, because in this situation, directly to that person's participant page, and they can go on and make their donation. So if we think about the entire context of this, one-stop shop, and now you have access to all these third-party systems that are out there via API. He did it, I don't know how he did it. Go on.
So yeah, basically, you know, one thing that David likes to say is never leave your seat. So the concept here is, you know, you've got everything in this interface, and without leaving this page, you can do multiple things. So as you can see, advocacy. So we're bringing up a video now. So you can play the video on the left-hand panel, but you can also, if you're on your mobile phone, you'll only see Lex. So you can actually play the video directly inside Lex. And you'll notice that in some cases, you know, we've got all the formatting going on using the Q&A bot. We've got, you know, bold text, we've got bullet points, we've got links, we've got all of that stuff happening right there. Also, things like warning signs, you know, that's obviously important to what we do. So here, instead of just doing a list of information, we're actually bringing you a nice little infographic. This is a really good infographic, but it's deeply hidden inside our site. So here you can see, you know, directly within Lex, as well as the main page. So also, if you click home, at the moment, it just takes you to that Hi, I am Tin Man page. But basically, if you're logged in, the idea is that, you know, that would be a dashboard for all of the stuff that you've participated in. So it could be, you know, your fundraising goal, you know, hey, make a donation. Or it could be, you know, you haven't joined You're the Cure for advocacy, so you can do that. Now that page that just flashed up really quick was a help page. So you can click help. And what it'll do is, instead of, you know, doing a long list of things directly in Lex because it's too much information, we're bringing that back on the web page. So there you can see a whole list of things that you can say or type into Lex. Also, it showed all of the different channels that we have. So we've got, you know, Lex itself within your mobile phone on the web page. We've got Facebook Messenger, we've got Alexa, and we've also got text messaging. So there's 5 different channels at the moment, and a couple of other channels we could potentially use is Kik and also Slack. So potentially 7 different channels with this type of technology. And the main thing is everything is done through Lex, because if we do everything in the web page, we're not going to be able to push it to different, you know, channels. So that's why the Lex part of this is very, very crucial.
Yeah, we want to channel everything through Lex, so we can extend that to the different channels. If we tie it to, say, the parent page on the bot or some of the content pages, although you can use the content pages to, you know, say you wanted to finish your donation, you can do that right through the content page. But we want to funnel all the traffic through Lex so we can extend that so you have the same experience on mobile, you have the same experience on Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. There was another thing that flashed, I knew that was going to be hard. Another thing that flashed up, and it showed all the SSO, so the ability to use Cognito. And so we have Identity Server, I think, is our SSO. So you could come in, create your credentials, but then we can hook you up to your Amazon account, which you could do one-click payments or donations, we're hoping in the future, or any other, you know, Facebook, whatever social sign-on you want. That went by really quick, too. So I should do this, shouldn't I? There we go. So That was a very, very fast overview of what we're working on. But the idea here is to blow up the bot technology, to use it in a way that's beyond just that little interactive bot floating over your screen. And then I think Chirag mentioned it real quickly. We sort of coined this term of never leave your seat navigation. So unlike traditional websites where all the search and nav and the onus is on you to find the content, we want to use this Lex technology to just ask for content, and then we'll bring it to you. And that's one of the key elements that we're trying to do to get back to the frictionless reference that we made earlier. So we're going to get off. Our time is up. There may be time at Q&A at the end, but if not, Chirag and I will be out at the AWS table during the break, and we're happy to answer any questions or talk about anything or show you all a more thorough demo on what we're working on. Thank you very much.
All right, our next speaker, Stewart McLaurin, the president of the White House Historical Association. So Stewart was appointed as the president of the White House Historical Association in May of 2014. His career spans the nonprofit education and public policy fields. He's previously held senior positions with the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation, Georgetown University, and the American Red Cross. Welcome, Stewart.
Thank you, Doug. Thanks very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be with you here. And before I begin, I want to introduce three great colleagues that are with me today, Stephanie, Joanna, and Whitney, and they'll be here all week at this conference as well as the education conference that can elaborate on what we're doing and share more in depth with you about the exciting things we have planned for the future. So to begin, I think I should tell you just a little bit about who we are and what we do. Everybody knows the American Heart Association, but not everyone knows the White House Historical Association. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that is not affiliated politically with any party or any president. We've been around since 1961, when First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy founded the association. Remember, she was only 31 years old when her husband was elected President of the United States. She came into this house, which had been radically renovated by President Truman. It was completely gutted, and when it was refurbished, the government nor Truman could afford to furnish it as Mrs. Kennedy would have wanted it furnished, so it was largely furnished with department store renovation furniture. Mrs. Kennedy came in and said, no, this will not do. It needs to be the very highest standard for the country, representing the best of America in terms of art, furniture, furnishings. But she couldn't do this with government funding, so she needed a private partner to do this. And so she created the White House Historical Association. So in 1961, we became this nonprofit entity to raise money. We don't accept any government funding whatsoever. And we have worked collaboratively with every president and first lady since the Kennedys. And we've contributed about $50 million in projects back to the White House. But Mrs. Kennedy also had a great vision beyond what to do in, with, and for the White House. She had a vision that was education in nature. And that's where our partnership with AWS comes in. She wanted to teach and tell the stories of the White House going back to 1792 when George Washington selected that swampy piece of land in Washington and the White House was built. But in the 1960s, you don't have the wonderful tools and toys that we have today. So what she did was she printed the very first guidebook to tour the White House, and that's the predecessor to that book on the top right. The first one was 1961, and we've continued to update and publish this book as the White House has been updated and its furnishings and its inhabitants changed. Last fall, we published the 24th edition of this book. All of that's great. We have wonderful programs, we have teacher institutes, we have curriculum that's on our website to go out into the schools. We do a lot. We publish other books. We'll do 6 unique titles on the White House this year and a quarterly magazine. And all of that's great. But what I realized, what my team and I realized a few years ago, is that we're hunkered down in Washington, right across the street from the White House. We have all this amazing, rich, wonderful content. But we had no reach to connect that content with schools, classrooms, students across the country, and with other people interested in the history of the White House, not only in our country, but around the world. So we began this partnership with Amazon Web Services. And I'll use the Amazon phrase of revolutionary and evolutionary. I mean, we drank the Kool-Aid because we saw this was a collaboration that we could take our wonderful content and deploy it at first through a White House tour app. Because from 1961, when Mrs. Kennedy published that first book, until 2017-18, that's all you had. About 500,000 people a year have the opportunity to tour the White House, and it's all a self-guided tour. So unless you know what you're looking at, you don't know what you're looking at. Well, that has all changed now. So in the past few months, we have debuted with Amazon Web Services this extraordinary first ever White House tour app. When you go on a White House tour, you do that through your congressman, and you're sent a boarding pass from the White House, and that gives you all the information, what you can bring, what you cannot bring, what you can do. And starting this month, that boarding pass will have information on this app. So people who are going to visit the White House can download it and prepare for their visit. And then as they go through the White House, they can see the key points of every room, every piece of furniture, the key pieces of furniture, the key paintings, and all of the elements that will bring the White House to life for them. And this has never been available before. The tour has three key components. Those who do have the opportunity to go through the White House, and there are about 500,000 people a year that the White House gets to go through, which is pretty amazing considering if you've ever been, how many people have actually been on a tour of the White House? Great. Well, by the end of today, everybody can go on a tour of the White House, because if you go to the App Store, even during the session, to the App Store or to Google Play and download WH Experience or search White House Experience, you can download this app. And there are three tours. There's the tour that if you're actually going to go through the White House and you can room to room see what you're seeing. There's a wonderful walking tour around the president's neighborhood. So if you're in Washington and you don't have an opportunity to actually go into the White House, you can look at it and see the floor plans and see the rooms and see the buildings in what we call President's Park or the President's Neighborhood and bring that to life through the White House tour app. And then if you're in Topeka or in Tokyo, you can tour the White House through a third version of this tour so that you can experience it from a remote place as well. But one of my favorite things, and if you've nobody, I don't see anybody who's downloaded the app, so I hope you do by the end of this presentation because I want you to do something with me. My favorite part, one of my favorite parts of this app is this Amazon recognition tooled resource. So we have populated this app with all the portraits of the presidents and the first ladies, and using this Amazon recognition, recognition technology, you compare your image to every president and every first lady, and it tells you which one you look most like, up to a percentage. So that's really fun. It's we have a great time around the office, and it depends on which angle of your face you look at and you kind of keep trying until you get one that you like. But it's a really fun thing. So with that, those are my words about the app, but I want to give you a little bit more of a visual of what it's like and how it can be used beyond what I've explained. So here's a short video on how to use the app. I don't think that's it. So there we go. so you can see as we began to work on that, it required a lot of images. And we had to acquire a lot of these images, and we realized we had a lot of these images. If you go back to Mrs. Kennedy in that guidebook in 1961, when they started taking all of these photographs of the White House, we had them, but they were literally stored in the basement of our building in old household freezers, and by the tens of thousands of these images. So in partnership with AWS, those have now been digitized. We've done 20,000 so far, and there's more to come. And on our digital library, if you're going through the app or going through the chatbot, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and you want more information or a deeper dive into an object or room, or the objects within a room, you can go to our digital library, and the image and the metadata is deep and rich and really wonderful, and a great resource for students, for journalists. We have a wonderful partnership with the White House Correspondents Association. They work right down the street at the White House, and they're covering the White House, and they want to know images of state dinners. Say the President of France is coming, and they want images of other French state dinners. They come to us to get that. Nobody else has that information. So this digital library is a great resource for students, journalists, anyone interested in knowing more about the rooms and spaces and objects in the White House. So the digital library brought about this conversation with AWS when they presented us with the idea and the opportunity to develop a chatbot for what we do. Now, we're a sleepy little dusty history organization, and something like this is new and innovative. And I have we've been contemplating what could we possibly do to be a first mover in some space in the humanities or in history education, and we actually found it. There's a lot of STEM applications for this type of data. There's customer service there's customer service applications, great things like the American Heart Association does. But in terms of history and the humanities, this is pretty cutting edge. And so we've started with an additional trunk of data that is now available on our website, where you can go on our website and type in the questions about the White House, and you can get those answers. Now, we're evolving to an Alexa platform and then to Fire TV, but I want to give you an example of the other thing that this will do, and it's doing it now on our website, it will evolve more so, is it allows our teachers to take our curriculum that have made available. It's downloaded into this chatbot feature. The students can absorb the material, and then they can be quizzed and tested on it. So the students can know how much each other have learned and how much they have learned. But if you're just doing this as an individual, you can check your knowledge as well and what you've gleaned from going through the chatbot. And I think we have a video here as well. Do we not?
Alexa, start history chatbot.
Hello, please ask a question.
What does the president do?
Living and working in the White House, the President of the United States performs many roles. These include the following: Chief of State, Commander-in-Chief, Chief Diplomat, Chief Legislator, Chief Executive, Chief Citizen, Chief Administrator, and Chief of Party. Begin learning with Start Roles.
Start roles.
As Chief of State, the President is the public face and figurehead of the United States. An example of this role is when the President hosts public events or speaks on important issues in the East Room.
What is the East Room?
The East Room is the largest room in the White House and can be adapted for many uses, including musical performances, press conferences, and other special occasions.
So you can see as we evolve toward using Alexa, it's going to be a fun thing to use at home as well. But right now it's just available on our website. So what's the future hold? We can evolve from this to many other applications. We want to grow these and strengthen these, of course, and we want to share with our other historian-oriented entities what we've learned and how they can do this as well. To that end, at the end of August, we're convening over 100 presidential sites from across the country in Washington, D.C. Childhood homes, presidential birthplaces, libraries, museums. Believe it or not, there are about 200 of these places across the country. A lot of little small volunteer-led places, but some large presidential libraries as well. And we want to share with them the wonderful and robust experience that we've had with AWS and share these tools and resources with them, be a connector, perhaps with our digital library. We have a prototype relationship that we're working on right now with the Lincoln Library, with some of their digital images and resources, and how we can coordinate with them and make those available with and through us as well. So the future is limitless, and we're excited about that. We're excited about our collaboration with AWS, and we appreciate the opportunity to share this with you today. And we're just growing, and I think the future is bright for us. And we're out from under our little dusty little shell on Lafayette Park and across the street from the White House, and we're doing great things not only across the country, but around the world, thanks to this collaboration with AWS. Now, did anybody download the app and do who did you get? Oh, anybody do the?
I got John Quincy Adams.
There you go. John, anybody else?
George Washington.
Bill Clinton. Oh, wow.
George Washington.
Oh, George Washington. Well, that's a good one.
I don't know how.
Okay, anybody else? Oh, George Bush. Okay, now you have to, I should have said, you have to pick presidents or first ladies. Oh, that's great. George Bush. Well, very good. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I got Woodrow Wilson with my glasses off, and I got Donald Trump with the ball.
Oh, really? That's great. Well, that's a pretty high note. I think we'll leave it on that. So thank you all very much for your interest, and I hope you all will download the app and learn more about the White House and its history.
This one's actually for Stewart. I was wondering, with the floor layout of having the floor layout of the White House, are you concerned with that being an issue of security for the White House, or is that vetted through the Secret Service?
Excellent question. It is vetted through the Secret Service. We had several meetings before we ever went down the path of the app to conceptualize what it would look like, what it would be able to do, and there are publicly available renderings of the key rooms and spaces in the White House, and so that's what's available on here. But any room that would be on the public tour and the key private spaces that you hear about, like the Lincoln bedroom, the Queen's bedroom, the private quarters, the Oval Office, the West Wing, the President's offices, those are all on here.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
It's like Google, you just blur them out.
No.
I have a newbie question for you guys. What's Lex?
Sure.
Lex?
So Lex is the technology that Alexa on Echo runs on, and it's just been decoupled from the device, from the Echo device, and made available to develop on. So it's, it's that voice interactive technology with natural language that you can do input-output on.
So is that what powers the chatbot, or is it specifically the voice integration?
It's what powers the bot, but you probably
Yeah, so basically, the way we had it explained to us, so you have Alexa, so Alexa's baby brother is Lex. Yeah. So it's the same back-end technology as Alexa uses with the AI and, that component of it. So the voice part is actually Polly. So that's another service that's added on. So you can actually use a chatbot without the voice, but you can also use that as well. Now, the great thing about the way Lex is set up is it works on basically any browser. So one issue we had with other chatbots that we were trying to use was it had to be on Google Chrome, it had to be this version and things like that. So with Lex, working with the Amazon team, it works on IE, it works on Safari, it works on everything, and then also your mobile phone. So basically, it's the AI component. Anything you type, it kind of inherits, the same back-end technology as Alexa. So it's got that, that artificial intelligence in terms of the natural language processing. Cool. But it's not actually artificially intelligent itself.
So it's integrated with heart.org. specifically? And then the scripts, are those, is that pulling from content on your site, or is that actually scripts that you've worked out with Amazon?
Yeah,
Right.
the input-output, so using Lex, and if you want to use voice, Polly, will send that input back to Lambda, which is yet another platform on AWS. And Lambda is where you can write code, right? So you could write code to do anything on Lambda. And then what Lex can do is send that input through Elasticsearch, and you can configure that different ways to say, I'm going to scroll through Lambda and find the right code to react to that input. So it's those two pieces put together,
Awesome.
I think, right? Get that right? Okay, good.
Hi there. We had the privilege of hearing Dan this morning speak about Uncharitable and really inspiring us to think differently about nonprofits, and specifically for this room, differently about how nonprofits leverage technology. So if either or both of you could speak to what were some of the most valuable resources you leveraged when pushing these revolutionary projects internally and getting them from an idea to fruition and moving forward. What were some of those really useful resources to do that?
Well, for us, it was the people and personnel and the talent of AWS, that we could sit around a common table and have an idea or a concept, and they could tell us how to broker that into reality. And they would make those introductions and facilitate what we needed to do, and provided that access to that for us. So that was transformational for us. We could not have done that on our own. We would have known the end game where we wanted to get, but we would not have had any idea how to get there. And so AWS helped us write that roadmap, and then they went on the journey with us along the way.
And I think within our organization, it really starts with our CEO, Nancy Brown. She, all the things Dan was talking about, she'll stand up in front of the entire organization, I think there's 3,000-ish people, and say those things. We need to innovate. It's okay to fail. We need to try new things. We need to think outside the box. So when you have the CEO of the organization really driving that message home, and then it gets to additional people who are great, like the EVP of technology that I report to, who's saying, okay, let's go out and execute on those, and giving us the space to do that. So I would think, in addition to the great team at AWS that really has integrated with us and taken ownership of our vision and helped us realize it, that leadership in the organization was key for us. Because without that, if you had a different attitude from the top, then you run into all the same roadblocks. But when we are very fortunate to have our CEOs standing up there and saying, go do this stuff, be disruptive, be innovative, do it, and that kind of permeates the organization. So that's kind of, I think, how we were able to do this, yeah.
Thank you all for your presentations, very interesting. David and Chirag, good to see you again. With regards to the Lex project, could you speak a little bit about the development life cycle and what was involved in that, the partnership with AWS, and any budget involved?
Yeah, so I'll take some of that and turn it over to you. So really, this really, in the true innovative spirit, started as a small kernel of an idea. There's been a lot of serendipity in this, I'll admit that, just different things and meeting some of the folks, and so it evolved kind of organically. So that part, it's hard to really articulate and say, okay, it was this system. Some stuff just sort of fell into place, but also internally, we adopted a methodology where we were going to, take our ideas. We were given, just like the previous questions, kind of that safe space to try things and to fail and fail quickly and all those kind of things. And then it just sort of kept going. We'd socialize it internally. AWS has given us a chance to come to things like this and talk about it as well. So that's in sort of the cultural aspect of how, and it's been just iterative, just us being relentless in terms of talking about it and going back and doing the development and showing that to people and creating a little more excitement and so forth and so forth. For terms of budget, like everybody in this room, I'll be standing in a hallway and I'll hear somebody, you've got a budget? I'm sort of shameless about that. Because we have a very small one. But things have happened then, again. So we've had our emergency cardiovascular care liked what they saw, so they were willing to give us some seed money to build out. There's some third-party folks that are looking to do some foundational gifts to help support it. So it's very piecemeal, and I'm just shameless when it comes to tracking down money because I believe in what we're doing. But in terms of the technology development lifestyle.
Yeah, so, we've actually had several different projects running simultaneously. So, we had something called a virtual concierge, we had the Q&A bot. We've got some things live on our site. We've done some pilot programs and things like that. But what you saw up there was a culmination of all the effort, that we put in. That demo that you saw took 4 weeks. So four sprints, 1 week sprints with the Amazon team to create what we had here. So it wasn't 4 weeks total. It was the culmination of everything we had done before that to get to that point. So pretty cool in terms of that. And so the other thing that we have been doing is, like David was saying, running around the corridors saying, hey, do you have money? But we are also trying to get this implemented internally. So our HR team, finance, legal, they have tons of resources they want to share with everyone. So what we're doing is we're building a tin man for internal use. So that way we're actually shopping it around internally because people are like, hey, that is awesome. We've got some resources or we've got some content that external people want to use as well. So we could get money and leverage it that way too. So that's what we've been doing.
Ours started in a very Washington way about 2.5 years ago, very Washington way, on the back of a cocktail napkin conversation with Teresa Carlson and I about the ideas and the possibilities. And that quickly led into introductions to her team, my team, Stephanie, Joanna Whitney, our historians have been living this 24/7, and their colleagues back at home for the past 2.5 years. And that's led us from one project to another project to another project. And in terms of funding and budget, AWS was also helpful to us to shine lights on new relationships and people who might be interested in supporting our work. And when others that we were already working with in some way heard that we were doing something so innovative and creative, they became more interested or interested in a new way in what we were doing because it was not just the same old thing.
Thank you for your time. This has been great. Can you talk to us about the user data you get that might come and use your chatbot, and then what do you do with that data afterwards to engage them to use a tag management system? Could one of you talk about that, please?
Okay. Well, so what we're doing is we're splitting our data into two guys. So there's user input data, obviously, that may come when we hook this up to some things we're working on where you might actually register and create some credentials, and then you'd have some space to do some food journaling or things like that. So the user is actually putting input in, and I think we're looking at just a simple DynamoDB where they create their profile and boom, 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 we collect data on them. In addition to that, there's all the metadata that gets generated around the interactions and the session data and those kind of things. That's probably part of what you're asking about as well. And then hooking that up with, it was Stewart who came in and had that interaction. And he gave us all this data because of this program, but also, what time of day and how long and all that. So you can probably speak to what we're doing around that session data, right?
Yeah, so, like David was saying, DynamoDB, capture session data, push it back out, just calculate, information there. And then the idea is to be able to, if the person's logged in, kind of grab that information and say, hey, we see you've signed up for a heart walk, but would you be interested to become an advocate? Kind of pushing that data back that way. So some other things, within this Q&A platform that we've got, there's Cabana Dashboards. So with Cabana, you can, pull out some information, out of that. You may have seen on one of the slides, what we're doing, working with Bob back there, is, creating something where we push the data from the chatbot into S3 using AWS Glue, and then from there we can push it to anywhere we want. So we're going to be pushing that into Tableau so we can, do some stuff with the data. So in terms of the way we do the, analyze the data, so one thing that we've been doing is talking to our engagement center, the call center folks. And the metrics they look at are, calls coming in, the abandonment rate, and successful calls. So, we're working with the Amazon team about, doing stuff like that. So like if you've used, Alexa device, you've probably noticed that every now and then it'll ask you, was this helpful? or, within the Alexa app, you'll have a rating. Was this useful? Yes, no. So we're kind of trying to, add that implementation into Lex itself. So then that way we can ask the person, did this answer your question, yes or no? Then we can kind of, gather that information and push it back through Elasticsearch and get better results back to the user.
For us, as we expand our exposure, I would love to be getting contact names for fundraising or to sell our products like our annual White House Christmas ornament. I think we'll evolve to that eventually, but for now, our focus has primarily been to students and young people and teachers where obviously there are privacy issues, and so it's just been pushing out more than pulling back data at this point. Good. Thank you all very much.